Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
how
how
are
are you,
you?
Miss Lurie? Fine.
I'm well.
Listen, I was listening to what you were saying about the transgender community,
Hmm.
and I feel like we are being kind of trapped into this idea that we have to support the gender affirming drugs if we support the
Mm.
transgender community. I
Hmm.
genuinely believe that they have the right to freely walk this earth, get employment, have housing, live their best life. But do
Hmm.
I genuinely, as a Democrat, believe that I should be giving children puberty blocking drugs? No, and I believe the reason why we lost the election is because they're forcing us to believe that I, as a black woman, will lose my rights if I don't support young children having puberty blocking drugs for the plan to be transgender to later compete against me as a woman for men and for sports. Because I've talked to many transgenders who make it clear to me that I can take your man. And they believe that they're
Oh.
infringing, they're going to become women themselves more than the women that are there. And I think that's a
So
dangerous.
Cynthia, I just want to pause you just a little bit. Thank you so much for your comment. I think you are giving voice to something that a lot of people feel, and I love that we have created a space on this show where we can have these sorts of conversations, uncomfortable or otherwise. Can you tell me which Democratic candidates ran on transgender rights in this last election that
The
you're aware of?
problem was, it's not that they ran on it; they didn't deny it. When the ads came out saying that Kamala supported transgender surgeries, instead of saying, "Hey, I support transgenders," but that's ridiculous that you're saying that I support surgeries in a
So,
hospital.
Cynthia, were you aware that the transgender surgery legislation was passed under Donald Trump and signed into
That's
law by the Republicans?
that but she just needed to say, "I don't support it,"
But
because
she does support it, and here's the thing, and this is why this is important, because it has so let's be clear, and I'm so glad that you said you've at least spoken with transgender people. Most people who call this show ain't never met a trans person, but the reality is you might live in one of over half the states in this country that don't have a single out trans person playing any sports whatsoever. In fact, most colleges, there were some recent reports that talked about the fact that they don't have any trans people playing any sports whatsoever at all. Now, if somebody trans is saying I could take your man, then that's really more of a conversation between you and your man. But that means that anybody would be able to take your man, and that's something that I'm not in circles where that's the tone of conversation. The LGBTQ folks I'm in conversation with ain't talking about taking nobody's man. So I question, some of the circles you may be in communication with. But the reality is, if you don't agree with giving puberty blocking drugs or transgender surgeries to adults who want it, or puberty blocking drugs to children, then you should not give them to your children. But we're not talking about a child 5 years old saying, I want a puberty blocking drug. This is as a result of a conversation between parents, between medical professionals, and as they determine what is going to be in the best interest of that child. Now, if you don't agree with that, then you would not have to do that. But it's not that we have to convince people to be in support of these things. Otherwise, you will have your rights undermined. That's the way the law works in this society, because the trans community is protected by the same sort of legislation that protects the black community, the Equal Protection Clause. So this has not, and I heard Dr. Carr say something this morning that was so true. When it comes to legal principles, how you feel about it personally, there should be a brick wall between your personal feelings and the legal principle. Number one, personal feelings can shift. Number two, the rights of other people in communities that you are not a part of should not depend on your personal beliefs. But here's the thing. If you make it okay to not allow the trans community to be protected by the Equal Protection Clause, there are no protections for the black community. None. Because we rely upon the uniform application of the Equal Protection Clause so that people don't say things like, well, everyone in the country can vote when they're 18, but if you're black, you can't vote until you're 21. And now we're going to say as black people, well, you can't do that. We have the right to equal protection. No, you don't, because you are perfectly okay with the trans community not having the rights to equal protection. And once it's okay for us to not have equal protection for one group of people who are a minority class and who are subjected to that sort of abuse, then it's going to be okay for everybody. That's how the law works. This has nothing to do with your personal feelings. And if you, again, are in community with people who are trying to take your man of any gender, I would suggest you get a new community, because that don't feel healthy to me. But we have to be clear. How we feel about it personally has nothing to do with the law. If you do not believe in gay marriage personally, don't get gay married. But when you stop the law from being accessible to other people who are gay and who believe in gay marriage, then there is nothing stopping that same sort of discrimination from coming against you. So it's not about convincing Black people to support rights. Otherwise, they're going to come for you. That's just how the law works. And I'm not saying that as a radio show host. I'm saying that as a lawyer who looks at equal protection every day. So there is a disconnect often between what we think should happen, our personal beliefs, and the realities of how the law works. Because once we accept that it is okay to prevent the trans community from having equal protection, there is nothing, Cynthia, and I mean nothing, that will stop these folks from making sure that Black people don't have access to equal protection. And I will also say this, what you are raising for us, and I hope that you're able to receive this in the spirit in which is given, because I don't want the intensity of the way in which I'm communicating this to be mistaken for me judging you. That's not what this is, but it is a passionate issue because so many of us as Black people have worked to destroy our own rights because we believe in some perspective about the LGBTQ community, the trans community. In the state of Florida, when they were rolling out that AP history course for Black children, for all children in AP classes, an AP course that frankly every child should be taking on Black history, they didn't have to do much at all, Cynthia, because they went to the Black church and told the Black church, hey, did you know that this expansive, multi-year long AP history course that's going to expose not just Black children, but white children, Latino children, Asian children, is going to expose them all to the real history of this country as it pertains to Black people? Did you know that as wonderful and as amazing as that is, despite the fact that Black people, Black educators, Black parents have been fighting for that type of curriculum for decades, did you know it includes a section on the Black gay community? And the Black churches in the state of Florida said, oh, hell no, in the name of Jesus. We can't have that. And so now no one gets to learn the true history of this nation as it pertains to race because it made a couple of Black folks uncomfortable. We have to come away from this being willing to shoot ourselves in the foot. We shoot ourselves in the freaking heads, metaphorically speaking, when we allow our personal beliefs to be the measurement against which the law is established. Does that make sense, Cynthia?
No, it doesn't, because at the end of the day, we're losing the war because we're picking the wrong battle.
War? What war?
The bigger picture. Now we've lost the election. Now we got this man in power who's going to undo everything anyway. So why
we didn't lose the election because of trans people. We lost the election because, unfortunately, of people who think like you. The trans people, nobody in the Democratic side even ran on trans issues. Donald Trump just a few weeks ago said when he was talking about raising taxes, he was getting pushback. Well, when he talked about the trans issues, he was able to get people to come out and vote. The trans community isn't why we lost the election. We lost the election because of anti-trans phobia. Because people who believe, as you believe, that there is some war. You know what the trans community wants? To be left the fuck alone. They want to not be bothered. And I don't know what war is being fought. The trans community makes up less than 1% of our population in this country. So let's put the blame where it is. The trans community did not lose this election. Bigoted people who didn't even hear the Democrats. The bigoted people heard the Democrats say, I'm going to give you $25,000 to buy a house. I'm going to give you $50,000 to open up a business. I'm going to give you free health care. I'm going to include mental health care in that free health care. I'm going to give you $6,000 in your child's first year of life. I'm going to give you a couple $100 per child per month for the rest of that child until they are 18. Bigoted people heard all that the Democrats were offering and believed that Donald Trump's issue on the trans community was a war that needed to be fighting. And y'all voted away your rights. You voted away civil rights because you believe that there is a war between the trans community. Ain't thinking about you, except the ones who are trying to take your man. And again, I think you're just talking to the wrong people. Final comment, Cynthia?
I agree. But what I'm saying is I talked to a lot of people who said the reason why they did not vote is because they were on the fence about the trans issue. That
was a foolish decision. That was a decision to not vote or to vote for Donald Trump or to not vote. That was a stupid decision based on bigotry. And you ain't even trans, so it doesn't even impact you. People made a decision to vote away civil rights because white Americans and the white Christian national, y'all got suckered by the new Southern strategy, and we gotta own it. Americans got suckered. Y'all been hoodwinked, run amok, bamboozled, all because they knew what your pressure points were. And when I went to that Moms for Liberty meeting over a year ago, and I live streamed it, when I went to that Moms for Liberty meeting over a year ago, I told y'all they were going to use the trans issue to get you not to support critical race theory. They were going to use the trans issue to get you to not support voting in your own interest. And they fell for it. So if you are one of the people who decided you were going to vote away civil fucking rights, our economies, personal and collective, you gave that away because of some mythical issue that the Republicans blew up and made a boogeyman in your mind, that was a foolish voting decision. It was foolish. And now we're all going to suffer for it. And half of y'all don't even know no trans people. And if you did, they ain't even thinking about you. They just don't want to get killed for being trans. And all y'all worried about trans men in the bathroom, this motherfucker is the president of the United States. He is appointing Pete Hegseth to the Department of Defense, whose own mama said he was a trifling, trash-ass, no good, very bad man. And y'all fell for it. Not y'all, but people who believe as Cynthia does and voted accordingly. So good luck with the bigotry. I hope the worry about the war on trans people and the fact that we think they're going to come and compete. Ain't nobody competing with each. Women are not competing with each other across trans. You know where that's happening? That's happening in social media spaces. The same places where the diaspora wars are taking place. That's where those conversations are happening. That's not real life, Cynthia. It's just not. Less than 1% of this population is trans. Less than 1%. And this community of American voters gave away our civil fucking rights, gave away our economy, our ability to not have to fight a dictatorship and fascism because you're worried about the mythology that the white Christian nationalists planted in your head. This is why I'm telling y'all, you better stop embracing what these people tell you.